Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are back on the update 1.87 dev server and it's time to have a look at a new premium 9.0 tank for Japan. This is the Type 74G, and the Type 74G is very similar to the Type 74. It only has some small differences between it, but that makes it a 9.0. The general description that I would give this vehicle is that if the tanks that are coming into game are 10.0s, such as the M1A1 Abrams, this machine may have a little bit of issue because of the fact that it'll get dragged up there, and even though it has a better round now, it definitely isn't on that caliber. But at 9.0, this machine is looking great. The reload rate of 8.1 seconds, which can go lower, it can go down to a wonderful 6.7 seconds, does sound good to me. It has the L7-105 firing some fiery APF SDS. It also has access to a 50 caliber machine gun on the top and a coaxial 7.62, and also some smoke grenades to go along with it. The vertical guidance is only 6 degrees of gun depression, which isn't good, definitely not anywhere near standard, but the turret rotation speed is okay. Now, when I look at this vehicle, what I see is a vehicle that doesn't have a ton of armor on it. It can maybe sometimes bounce stuff, over here. But at 9.0, you have some tough competition. So if we look at the USA 9.0s, you have the MBTs, the MBT-70, the XM803. You also have the Rise being thrown in there, the XM1GM. Then for Germany, Leopard A1A1L44. Leopard A1A1, and even the KPZ-70, of course. The Soviets around 9.0, the T-72A, then you've got stuff like the T-64A, the T-62M. All of these are pretty solid vehicles. And then, of course, for the British, for 9.0, don't make me laugh. Then for Japanese, of course, you only have this vehicle and the Type 74 8.7. The Italians at 9.0, the Romor at 9.3, and the French at 9.0, unfortunately, non-existent, with only the Brennus and the Hot being there. So, when I look at this vehicle, I'm thinking the same thing I thought with the Leopard A1A1 L44 and the T55AM, when they were added. Now, the Leopard, they were both 9.0 on the first dev server. The T55AM got dropped to 8.7. The Type 74G, I'm feeling exactly the same way. If 9.0 actually becomes a BR, that people properly play and don't just get stomped by 10.0s, then I can see this thing doing really well. The problem is, I don't yet. Especially if the new tanks coming in are 10.0s, because then machines like this would just get dragged up. Now, will it be good for this to be alongside the Type 90, as a backup? I suppose, yes. But it's nowhere near the Type 90 in how it is, and it's nowhere near the level of the Type 90. Even though this is technically a 1990s vehicle, it has 1970s tech in it, which is, it's just not good enough, especially with the leaps and bounds that were made during that time when it came to especially armor in the form of Chobham and composite. So, if this thing can actually fight at 9.0, it's allowed to fight at 9.0, it has a chance. I don't think it does get to fight at 9.0 though. Anyway, let's talk about the layout of this. It's a 4-man crew, and since the armor is pretty much negligible anywhere, just shooting at center mass will kill it. It has 3 people in the turret, a loader, a commander, and also a gunner. You've got the driver here, and a bunch of ammo next to him, and then some ammo behind as well. The other thing, once 10.3 or 10.7s become, the maximum BR, then yes, this thing will actually be useful, because it won't be able to go up against the most high-tier vehicles. So you've got that to look forward to. On top of this as well, this is a rank 6 vehicle right now, which means that it will be able to efficiently grind anything from rank 7 and below, so pretty much top tier and below. It would also, my opinion would be not to buy this if you're not experienced in the Japanese tech tree, because this is going to need stuff going along with it. The only real difference between this and the Type 74 as well, which is actually in the tree, when we're talking about, it in-game, is the reverse. This thing will have a slightly better reverse, which is why I think either this is going to get dropped to 9.0, or the other one is going to get raised to 9.0. The one great thing about the Type 74G that it's brought is the Type 93 round. Now, the Type 93 round pens at 0 degrees 405, 30, 350, 60, 234. So that's a pretty good round for something that is 9.0. The M735 that it had before, you can see that the pen difference is massive, especially at angles. This is at 279 at 30, this is at 350. Huge difference there, and at 60 degrees as well. So this will be much better at getting up-tiered and fighting whatever it can. The only problem is that it's still not really good enough to face, top-tier stuff. So let's talk about the Abrams. Let's just use this as kind of a standard example. Doesn't have the best armor. It actually has pretty weak armor if we compare it to the top stuff. So let's get that Type 93 shell out. It can pen here, the lower glacis. It can't pen the turret. It struggles. Possibility is low. Then it can pen around the gun breech, because everything can. And then it can pen the turret ring. So you can still pen decent areas of this machine, but the main thing is the big flat areas you can't. You'd have to actually properly aim against this, and this is one of the weaker armored top-tier machines that we're getting. So that is, something to think about. The Ariete, of course, it will just eat for breakfast. But for me, when I look at the Type 74, and I compare it to the other premium machines that we have at 9.0, specifically the XM1, the big difference is the XM1 speed is insane. Whereas this thing's speed, it's still good, but it's not near the XM1, and that's what makes the XM1 powerful. It's the rate of the gunfire, and it's also the speed. So for me, when I think about this machine, the rate of the gunfire is okay, the speed is alright, but it's just not amazing. And then I look at the Leopard A1L44, and I look at the T55AM, and I wonder why the hell isn't this thing 8.7? Because if those things are supposed to be 8.7, this thing definitely should be an 8.7. I don't see it as a big upgrade over its compatriot, the Type 87 that we have in the tree. So it's one or the other. It's either we push this thing up to, we either push this thing down to 8.7, or we bring the other one up. And that, to me, is kind of where we're sitting right now. You can see it's quite a low, it's quite a low vehicle. It does have access to hydropneumatic suspension, as you can see, so you can move it around, which is lovely. Let's just make it more centered. You can even raise it. Let's do that. Let's make it as high as possible. There we go. Wonderful stuff. But the thing is, at the end of the day, when it comes to that, not many people use the hydropneumatic suspension. It's just kind of nice that it's there. But the maneuverability is good on this, Negative 16 kilometers an hour may not seem like a lot, but it's good for a vehicle of this caliber. It's a good reverse speed for a 9.0. Then we have, 35 going to 40 very quickly. And also the optics on this are amazingly good. So that is something that's wonderful. You can also corner peek effectively in this by just going back and forth, as you can see. It's the same issue, right? It's the same issue with all 9.0s. They're not 10.0s. They're not crazy high when it comes to their composite armor. They don't have a lot of stuff going for them when it comes to their protection, and their speed is just not as good. This thing already is 10 kilometers an hour down. Now yes, you don't want your 10.0s to be the same as your 9.0s. You want your 10.0s to be superior compared to them. The issue with that, though, is the way that people play, and the way that people want to play the game, is they like playing top-tier stuff, So, if you're in a situation where people are playing those top-tier stuff, there's always got to be somebody who's going to be bottom tier. And right now, that is what 9.0 is. The stabilizer is pretty good on this machine. It is good up until around about 35, 40, and it starts falling apart, but generally you're not going to be going those speeds anyway in this machine. So the stabilizer is definitely good enough. And if you get up to it, yes, you will be useful. The question is, would this be a good secondary to the Type 90, like the Type 74? Well, all you have to do is go and ask Type 74 users. You're getting a slightly better shell, which is good, but after my conversations with a lot of them, I think the answer is no. This is not a good backup to it because of the fact that it is so much lower on the pecking scale when it comes to the technology that is in this machine compared to others. It does have dual drive though, so that has that going for it, and I can't wait until stuff like the M1A1, stuff like the T80U go up in BR, because it means that machines like this will actually be able to form their own meta, to be the powerhouses that they're supposed to be, basically be the 8.7s of the premiums that we see. So for me, I would probably wait on buying this thing until at least the second dev server, when we see what BR the new vehicles are, like the Challenger 2, the M1A1, so on and so forth. Because I'm kind of worried that because we have all those new big vehicles, right, that this is just going to get straight climbed up into them, and you're gonna get eaten alive, which is never a good feeling. You know, it's never good to be mullered by a top tier vehicle. Go and ask the 4.0s how they feel about 5.0s, or 4.7s versus 5.7s, or 6.7s versus 7.7s. There's a big gap in technology and mechanics at all of those levels. So for me, when I compare this to the other premiums, actually, the XM1 is better than it, just because of the raw speed and the reload and the gun. The Leopard A1A1L44 is very similar to this, actually, in a way. This might have a slightly better round, but it does feel very, very similar to it. And then, the T55AM, I'd probably take the T55AM over this, because I like the extra armor, I like the survivability of it, but that could just be a playstyle thing. Anyway, it's lovely to see Japan, oh, and also the shot Cal Dallet. Well, I'd take this over that just because of the speed. The speed is still an issue for that shot Cal, or shot Gal. But yeah, it's nice to see that Japan gets its rank 5 premium, which is useful, instead of that waste of space, the Type 75. So, yeah, I mean, from that point of view, that's wonderful. People now have something useful to grind with. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.